I had a couple requests to go back over the grid building process, so I'm going to do that here for you. First thing first, we want to be able to set up our grid by going to Illustrator and Preferences and Grids and Guides. We can type into this space a dimension that is not inches, so I like to have my grid maybe every 50 pixels, and then subdivisions of 5. That'll give me 1 pixel line every 10 pixels, which is nice. You can set up your color here, choosing whatever you like, whatever you prefer. Let's try a yellow one just for fun. And I'll go ahead and click OK. Now when I turn this on, I'm going to hit the Command button and hit the apostrophe. And as you can see, I have my guide set up. You can, of course, work offside of the page rather than on it. I'm going to go ahead and set up some lines here using my line segment tool. I'm just going to click and drag. Now I do have my snap to grid turned on. It's down here at the very bottom of the view panel, view menu. If I hit snap to grid and snap to point, this will make it a lot easier to be able to create these grids. Now I do want to create one line. I'm going to go ahead and give it a color and then just duplicate it by holding down the Option key and clicking and dragging on it to make a copy, if I can click on it. There we go. And I'll hold Shift so that it stays perfectly in line and then snaps to the next grid line. If I hold down the Command button and hit the letter D, every time I hit the letter D, it will duplicate the last action. In this case, the last action was for me to make this line and duplicate it. So I'm going to make another one going vertically, and I'll go ahead and just copy this one as well, duplicate it over, and then hit Command D to fill up the space. This is the basic way to make a grid. To be able to get the basic grid to work, I'm going to go ahead and turn off the outline color on it so I do not see the grid itself. I'm going to go ahead and select my Shape Builder tool, which the hotkey is Shift M. Go ahead and change the color to something that we can see so that when I draw on it, again yellow, I will be able to see the shape and color appear. In which case now I can just drag over my grid to be able to create the shapes that I want. I can change the color anytime, and as I do so and do not drag over the same shapes that I've already created, you can create different shapes and different colors. So it's going to be a really fun, interesting way to create a dynamic shape change that can be a simplified abstract logo design, which is awesome. So you can also drag over similar shapes that you've already drawn. In this case, I'll continue drawing onto the yellow shape to be able to give it a little bit more dimension. So it kind of wraps around the green here. So you can add to these shapes or even combine them together if you wish with the Shape Builder tool. Lots of really fun things you can do there. I'm going to back up here and add a little bit to my grid. So before I change the color of the grid, just hit Command Z to go back several times there. I'm going to go ahead and make a circle and add some circles to my grid. So if I click and drag here to make a circle, and I hold down the Option key, it will drag and create a circle from the center point rather than from the corner. If I also hold Shift, I will make sure that it's perfectly proportional. Now I just want to copy this circle by hitting Command C and Command F. Every time I hit Command C and Command F, it's going to copy and paste in front, in which case now I have 2 circles here. Again, I can click and drag on the corner edge to be able to increase the size of the circle, but also holding down the Option key while I do that to center it, and then holding Shift to make sure it stays perfectly symmetrical. I'll do this several times, Command C, Command F, holding down Option and Shift to drag on the new circle that's there, so that I can fill up my grid perfectly aligned to the lines here. As you can tell, my circle is getting larger and larger in the stroke size because I have my default settings to increase the stroke size as it scales. We can change that in preferences, or I can just select them all and eyedrop the smallest one to get them all the same size. I will go ahead and draw out another circle to make a copy of these and have them overlap. And then I'll hold Shift and drag over this side, and we'll just move those over so that they're centered on the square grid. This is the way to make a really nice intricate grid design. It's got a few extra little pieces that we may not want to forget are there, but I can now select the whole thing, hold my Shift and M key, or click on my Shape Builder tool to be able to click and drag these pieces together to start drawing. Whoops, I need to get rid of my outline color first. Let's go ahead and do that so that we can see what we're actually making here. Of course, I need to do that with my selection tool selected. Switch to my shape builder tool, choose the color that we'd like to draw with, how about green, and we can go ahead and start drawing whatever we would like. And as I draw over every single one of these shapes, it will just turn it into an editable shape that has that color applied. You can combine these in many different patterns and shapes to come up with some interesting compositional shapes that we can use to either be logos, to influence logos, or to add to and adjust later on. It's a little bit of a game of just seeing, what are the shapes here that you can see, and how can you interact with them in a way to create a symbol of some kind. And symmetry is always a nice thing. So I am trying to be conscious of the symmetry as it comes together here. Now once I'm done and I like a particular shape that I've been able to create in this space, I'll go ahead and just switch to my selection tool, deselect everything by clicking off, and then I'll just click on the green shapes that I made while holding Shift to make sure that they're picked up. Each time I click on one, it will select it by holding Shift. I can then zoom out, turn off my grid, and drag out a copy. I'm not sure if this is some intricate leaf-like design, but whatever it is, can be certainly edited and manipulated continuously to be able to then integrate these shapes. Or picked apart and made with something new. One more shape or grid that you might like to make is with triangles, in which case we can use our grid again to turn it back on. I'll just pen tool a basic triangle here. I'll switch it to outlines. I'll go ahead and make a copy of this by holding down the Option key and clicking and dragging on it. I'll flip this triangle over and then line them up. Now I have two triangles overlapped on top of each other. Drag out a copy, hit Command and D to duplicate this process, making the grid as large as you'd like it to be. I just now need to add a line in the center. So go ahead and do that with my pen tool, which will make this fairly easy to align to my grid. And now I can duplicate this multiple times to create my rows. And there you have a triangular grid. What's nice about the triangle grid is things are on an angle, and you can create some really fun, detailed things in this way. Just better choose a color. And of course, the fun of creating doesn't have to stop there. It can be something that you manipulate, move around, overlap in some interesting way to be able to further your symbol design, whatever that may be. This is a great way to create abstract and simplified symbols that do not have to be super complicated as a potential way to make logo designs or symbol design. And it can be a really great way to also create shapes that you can just play with. But hopefully we're thinking about what's going to be the most appropriate symbol type that we can make for a particular organization. If this type or style of logo design is not going to be the most appropriate way to represent a business and the essence of what they stand for, then this process may not be what you want to use. Feel free to give it a try. Let me know if you have any questions, and I will be happy to help you anytime. Thanks. Have a good night, guys.